we're glad to have to recognize presenters. I'm going to briefly introduce them. So we have Dr. Martin Hilbert. His presentation is about the value of data for research and society. He has degrees in social sciences and communications, professor at the University of California, big data advisor for the United States Congress, author of 5 books. He's designed and delivered courses on digital innovation for the international development and on complex social systems and networks analysis. We have Dr. Jesús Rogel Salazar, his scientist, data lead data science. His work for companies like AKQA, MBA Data, Science Studio, and Dow Jones, among others, visiting researcher in the physics unit in the Imperial College in the UK, member of the physics, astronomy, and mathematics faculty at the University of Hertfordshire in the United Kingdom. So thank you very much for your presence. Welcome. For the sake of time, let's please start with our presentation. So thank you very much for having me today. Thank you very much to the host for putting together such a fantastic conference here. There are a lot of people working in different topics, evolving topics, and that's what I want to discuss today. So I want to start with my presentation. Computational social science, and this overlaps with Jesús' works because data have limitations. 2/3 of my presentation will discuss data and data analysis. At the end, I want to conclude by speaking about limitation about the data analysis and the majority of the machine learnings. Artificial intelligence, because there's still a gap of technology. We live in a different world, and a world different where most of us are educated. Last century, if we look at the list, the most influential companies in the Fortune 500, things haven't changed a lot between 1955 and 1995. We have the main players. So today we have a president of a country or a dean of a university or with a politician. Do you think we're in the previous world, like in a bank, in an oil company, an industrial giant? But they don't rule the world anymore. 5 companies rule the world. And what they do is that they study social patterns and they turn the social patterns into an economic value. That's what these companies do. And here we have a bank number 7 and a company number 8. There's a university on top. So the world has changed a lot during the last 5 years. We are not saying anymore in the future information will be important. No, what's important today is information, and that's how the majority in their businesses specialize in investigating society, social science, computational data science, and that's what I'm going to talk about today. And we have turned a little bit in scientists. During the recent years, I want to show something so old, so old, like the Pope in 2005. We have an inauguration of Pope Benedict. That was 2005, 2013. This is the image of the inauguration of Pope Francis. So what changed very few years has among these years, in 5 years, a lot of things changed and we all became social scientists. We record reality and the result is the footprint, the fingerprint. We have a digital fingerprint we are creating with each digital step that we don't necessarily inevitably We are leaving that behind. That's the entry in order to study society and its behavior. Overall, information has grown a lot. If you see here, 1986, the white part is information for the world. The green part is the digital. After 2000, the digital exploded. Is that we don't have less analogical information in the world, but digital information for the time being is more than 89%. The academic world knows me because I was the first person that who estimated the growth of this information. The latest updating of that, and I'm not going to bore you with that. The last time I estimated that was 5 zettabytes with 21 zeros. If you take the 5 zettabytes that the world may store in each paper, in each credit card, chip, the 5 zettabytes, and if you take those and put them in a book, and if you have it in a pile, so how high is the pile? Will it reach Mars? Will it reach the sun? If you drive a car at 130 kilometers an hour, no pause, day and night, 24/7, without having a cup of coffee for 130 years, you'll reach the sun. You'll spend a lot of books if you drive 130 at 130 kilometers a day. Do you think will you reach the sun in 2002? It reached the sun 4,500, but now it's like 11,000 piles. Next time it'll be more than 20,000 piles. Most of the information is about our behavior, and there we extract the power of these companies that rule the world because now they can study us. We're turning into science. Social studies are now science. Normally, when you used to publish, when an economist could explain what is the variance, they published in the top journal, 10% of reality. But in public policy, you do that understanding 10%. 9 times, you'll fail 9 times, and you have one chance because the story runs only one time. So that's why most of the political theory fails. Not because politicians fail, because we understand just 10% of social science. Now, big data with the fingertip, we have predictions of 80 or 90%. Now we're starting doing science. Like a footnote, I can. People say that big data is the fingertip, like the microscope was for biology in the first 200 years, 300 years, the first 200 years was science, was about physics. And the Incas also studied the stars. They didn't have a telescope. But when we had the telescope, then it became science. Today, you know better, but people have told me that 60% of publications are biology or medicine. 100 years was biology. The next years, you'll see rates in the next 100 years can be social science, knowing that there are business models for understanding society better, but we can do studies regarding social sciences we couldn't do before, and we learn fundamental things like there's an online dating site like Tinder, OpenQT, you know the site. 5 million people made online dating, and the author David Christians wrote the book. And for example, he studied how people find love. Who's not interested? Before we couldn't study, but now there are 5 million people, and now we can know how they find love. The black part is the age of women, and the red numbers are the ages of men. They looked at 22 years old. Look, Guys older than 24 and more mature ladies 47, they like 38 year olds. So how do you think this works for men? If you can't see the slides, yeah, and if you're sitting on the back, please come closer so you can have a better look at it. Usually, this is the joke of a party. Hey, man, women say we're not consistent, but we're consistent. We like very young girls, always, but for us, people doing social science, living in cities, where 43% of children don't grow up with their with a biological parent, knowing that family is such an important institution. These gentlemen didn't know they were being observed. By the way, if you had the fingertip is useful for finding things because it's observational data. It isn't information coming from surveys. You cannot lie with your behavior. Well, just a little bit, not forever. The truth is that in the past we didn't know much about a lot of problems, but now we have very deep insights of our species, of the societies we want to build, and what kind of institutions we need to support ourselves. So this is what this business is all about, other than all the fun things. But let me jump into this data. The fingertip is a true fingertip. Who uses Google Map or Gmail? And have you dedicated 2 hours to read all the privacy guidelines of Google? One person. Two, well, if you haven't, there's this website. This is a timeline, but I think it still works. You can see where you were each second of your life during the last 4 years. It works everywhere. It shows location, and I know that on November 17, 2014, I was in this place. I was in this bar area, but it's strange because it was on Monday. I don't quite remember what I was doing on Monday on a bar, but Google Map does, and he'll never forget about it. By the way, if you're not totally sure, don't share this trick with your spouse, or you may find very interesting things. So that's the fingertip. We have a tracker biologist. Ecologists don't have a tracker. Biologists don't know where all the species are in the sea or where all the birds are each second. We're the most complete science with data. More than 5 years ago, 5 years ago, we were the poorest science. Now we have a comprehensive sample, almost complete. We know what we consume, how we use credit cards. We know who our friends are. We have exceeded physicists who need to spend a lot of time to produce their data. That is why there's so much emotion in social science. Many biologists and physicists join social science to make use of this, to benefit. With this kind of metadata, if I know the structures of the call duration and frequency of phone calls, if you know what you call, but I know the metadata production, duration, and data. I could do a reverse analysis of a complete census with 85% accuracy, and this is what we do every 10 years. Because I have 85% accuracy with only knowing what the operator needs to collect, how frequently you call, and the duration of your call. With this, they can have a census. And we have real-time information. Also, Mexico, when you call your favorite call center, they'll tell you this call may be recorded. You always think, yes, it's the head of human resources listening to make sure you're well treated. Yeah, right. Half call centers are just 10 million algorithms that listen to you and classify you how you speak. They classify your psychological profile. They put you in 10 different boxes. It's a very old methodology. And then they'll connect you in the call center on the other side of the line who has the same motivations like you. If you're well motivated, if you're driven by emotions, they'll connect you with a person driven by emotions or with other criteria, and that has a lot of impact. You may think of, so I'm driven by actions. I don't have time. I use cell phones. I'm always asking for coupons, etc. So I say thank you very much. Quick calls. My my wife works differently. So how did it go with the call center call? She says, no, Martin, this person says he cannot help me with my account, but he was very caring, understandable. So he knows we are without our cell phone, and this is a true good company. The company understands you and treats you well. I would have been crazy if there was a guy there. So, of course, when you have this situation in a service, not in life, and that's why I love my wife. This works pretty well in services. The duration, they cut the duration of the call and they double the customer satisfaction. Isn't that fantastic? This is real-time information. AI knows us in real time better than we ourselves, and this is the famous story of personality. A survey was done on Facebook by using Candy Crush or something for free, like what the Cambridge University did, like with a quiz, get to know your personality. And by the way, when you accepted the terms of use of service, it means that you were open to share your information. So now we have a classic problem, like with how many likes can a machine detect your personality? If I have 10 million users, well, it worked for 10 million users. So with 100 likes, the algorithm could detect your personality. Then they ask your spouse, your mom, with 150 likes, they were able to discover their profile. Then they ask you, and what do you think? Are you introverted or not? Well, 250 likes, the system detected your profile. So with this, we can determine sexual orientation, political orientation, if your parents are divorced, if you use addictive substances. And this is just based on the likes. It's not like you wrote something, no. And this is another story, nothing to do with analytic at the Cambridge professor who moved then to California. They started to discover what they did there. So the professor who invented this demonstrated that the bomb existed, but he didn't do any business with it, and they want to collaborate with me, but I've said no. They just this later on to do the brainwashing that happened on the latest US election, and that happens a lot in Latin American elections. It isn't clear how much they use cytographics, but they also in Mexico, in Chile, And in a lot of Latin American countries, there are companies engaged in using social media information for elections. But this is what Google and Facebook do. They have individualized commercials, and I don't want to spend a lot of time here, but it brings me to this part. So, if I can wash the brain at another level, that started to worry decision makers in the US. So they visited the Congress. They invited Mr. Zuckerberg last week. They invited the Facebook CEO, and the Google CEO didn't want to visit the Congress because they start to see what we can do. That in Cambridge Analytica was kind of the start, but that was not the end. Cambridge Analytica, what did they do? They stole information on 50 million profiles, and they did brainwashing. They manipulated people. They showed people information they wanted to see on Facebook. But I always say, if you sell fruits, people will steal apples from you. And Facebook has 2 billion profiles. 50 were stolen. It can happen. It's a criminal case, a judicial system, a judicial case, and the police needs to determine the resolution. But what Facebook does the same with the 2 billion, and no one's talking about that. With the 2 million profiles, Facebook does the same. They had a team that during the Trump campaign sold service and $70 million for doing exactly the same. So Facebook categorizes society with their likes, with their interest, and then they present you what you want to see, and then they brainwash you. That's what Facebook does. You don't need any Cambridge Analytica. That's a separate business. They must go after someone to see what they do, how they do it. It's a theft. That this is the business model. So this is why this company is one of the top 5 companies in the world. So when they invited Mr. Zuckerberg to the Congress, to the library, and truth is that they didn't went deep into the discussion, and I was so embarrassed because they had to explain embarrassment of the other person who is not a Facebook user here. Facebook has information from you. So I invite you to do an exercise. Please take out your cell phone. Take out your cell phone and go to your favorite private email. Send yourself an email on the search bar. Write the word Facebook and see how many emails you received this or last week with the word Facebook, and how many of these emails are not from Facebook. Please go ahead and please see what emails you are receiving and from who. So what emails did you receive with the word Facebook are not really from Facebook? And who sends those emails? Maybe the municipality, the federal government, the social security, maybe university, another university. Even if you're not part of Facebook, Facebook collects information from you. Things are not for free on Facebook. There's a tracker for collecting data. So if you visit a website, a Facebook Pix, if I'm in a municipality, I can use Facebook pixels, and Facebook gives me the service of knowing my audience. It tells me who visited my profile because they track you. Facebook tracks everyone on the internet. As Facebook says, if you're logged out, and even if you don't have a Facebook account, so Facebook has 7 billion profiles. 2 billion, the 2 billion people who write something on Facebook is like the icing on the cake. You're the icing. Even if you're not part of Facebook, Zuckerberg says that you may delete your account. But how can I delete my account if I don't even have an account? Interestingly, when I was in the hearing, I started searching on the internet, how can I delete my Facebook account if I don't have a Facebook account? And I'm not kidding, there was a Facebook page with this name. So Facebook, the company, put a page saying, I don't have a Facebook account and I would like to request the deletion of this page, but this section was deleted. But interestingly, the first step was create your Facebook account. Let's move on. I have to speed up because I have 2/3 of my presentation to deliver, analysis and theory. There's a lot of information and there are companies, there are valuable companies in this world that have information of every person of this world. They study social patterns, and the social patterns represent economic value, so you can understand now why people say that the social science will dominate the world. In order to analyze this data, that is based on machine learning, and I have my colleague Jesús who's going to talk about this. Me and my students discuss a lot on machine learning, but if you take some statistics courses, you'll know how to do this well. But many times you don't need really statistics, as long as you have big data. But for that, you need artificial intelligence, because the brain cannot do that. Artificial intelligence has been under development. You know this concept, Turing test? The father of the computational science, the founder Turing, in 1950, he did this test, Turing test. If you communicate with someone behind a curtain in written, this is 1950, you cannot distinguish if it is a person or a machine. You pass the Turing test, then you can say, machines are intelligent, we lost. This was his test, and truth is that people have tried to do this a couple of months ago, and I hope the sound will work. Google did this presentation. This is your personal assistant, your machine, your cell phone, calling a parlor, a restaurant, to book service for you, to book a table. It's your digital assistant to book a table at a restaurant for you. Let's watch this video. Hola, estoy llamando para hacer una reservación. Estoy buscando algo para el 3 de mayo. Claro, un segundo, por favor.
Dice, es la máquina, ¿no?
Y es la máquina está diciendo, sí. ¿A qué hora? A las 12. Bueno, no tenemos a las 12. Lo que tenemos es a la 1:15. ¿Tiene disponibilidad entre las 10 de la mañana y las 12 del día? Bueno, dependiendo de qué servicio quiere. ¿Qué es lo que necesita? A ver, solamente un corte. Bueno, a las 10 de la mañana. Ok, a las 10 está perfecto. ¿Su primer nombre? Lisa. Ok, perfecto. Entonces, Lisa, nos vamos a las 10, el 3 de mayo. Ok, gracias, perfecto.
Yo no creo que ella sabía que es una máquina.
I don't think the other lady knew that she was talking to a machine. En la situación del restaurante. Hola, ¿qué tal? ¿Cómo le puedo ayudar? Bueno, me gustaría reservar una mesa para el miércoles 7, por favor. ¿Para 7 personas? No, para 4 personas. ¿4 personas? ¿Cuándo? ¿Hoy? ¿Esta noche? El miércoles que viene, a las 6 de la tarde, por favor. Bueno, de hecho, nosotros solamente tenemos reservaciones para más de 5 personas. Para 4 personas, usted puede venir sin reservación. ¿Y cuánto me voy a tardar en que me asignen una mesa? ¿Para cuándo? ¿Para mañana? ¿Para el fin de semana? Para el siguiente miércoles, para el 7. Oh, no, mucha gente. Usted puede venir, son 4 personas, dijo, ¿no? Oh, ya lo entendí, gracias. Sí, gracias.
Bueno, la verdad es que
The truth is that I'm a German. The English is not my first language.
En su inglés, pero la máquina lo entendió perfecto. Entonces creo que bueno, este Turing lo pasamos, ¿no?
So I
Ya,
think that
bueno,
we didn't
máquinas son
pass the
inteligentes,
Turing
¿no?
test
Entonces,
because machines are
este sí
actually
se considera que
intelligent.
han
So this
aprendido suficientemente.
discussion is
Ahora,
not valid
empecemos a ver
anymore. So
obviamente
now
muchos
we
otros ejemplos,
obviously
¿no?
can have other
Y ahora
examples.
incluso nos
And
da cuenta
now
que las máquinas son
we
inteligentes,
realize
pero
that
nos da cuenta
machines
que
are
son un poco
intelligent, but we
diferente
understand
inteligentes como
that
nosotros,
they
¿no?
are
Ellos descubren otras
intelligent
cosas mucho más
in a
rápido que
different way. They
nosotros, que
discover
nosotros
things
no
faster.
descubrimos. Y entonces
They discover
complementamos
things
la inteligencia
we
muchas veces.
don't. It's a
Por ejemplo,
complement.
aquí tienen un videojuego.
Here we have a video game.
¿Ustedes jugaron este videojuego como niño? ¿Algunos de ustedes? Sí, yo lo jugué también.
So
Los
if I
primeros 10
play it
minutos,
to the
el
first
algoritmo
10
porque
minutes,
no
the
sabe
algorithm
nada,
is
¿no? Es muy, muy
clumsy
terrible.
to hit the ball.
Nunca encuentra la
It
pelota
is
porque no
pretty
sabe qué
terrible. It
hacer.
doesn't find the ball because it
Y
doesn't
todo
know
lo que
what
le
to do.
dieron al
Everything
algoritmo es ganar
that
puntos,
they
¿no?
said,
Y después de 2 horas es mejor
and
que
after
cualquier
two
ser
hours
humano,
is better than
porque
any other
nunca
human being
pierde la
because it
pelota,
never
nunca,
misses
no
the
se pierde
ball.
nunca. Después de
And
4 horas,
after
al
four
algoritmo, ¿qué se le
hours,
pasa?
something really interesting
Se pone
happens.
creativo. Entonces
It
se
gets
encuentra este truco
creative,
después de
so
4
it
horas
finds
que a
this trick
partir de
after
esto
four
siempre va a
hours,
usar.
and
Básicamente es un
it's going to use
empleando
it
como
every
túnel a
time.
nivel
It's
largo, pone
creating a
la pelota
tunnel
arriba y
right
luego
here, and it puts
automáticamente se gana todos los
the
puntos.
ball on top,
Mire, yo he
and it's
jugado este
automatic.
juego
I
como
have played
niño
this game as a
seguramente más que
kid.
4 horas. Yo
I'm
creo que
sure
6
that
o
over
7.
4 hours, and I've never found
Entonces a
this
mí
trick.
seguramente me gana.
So I'm sure it
Después
would
de
win
4
over
horas se
me.
va a ganar.
And
Y obviamente si eres
after
un
4
ajedrez, la
hours,
máquina un par de
and
horas
for
aprende
example,
a
with
rapidísimo a ganar.
chess, I'm sure that
No,
the
no es que
machine can
nosotros lo
learn.
programamos,
It's
lo
not that we are
programamos.
programming it.
Y eso nos da
And that gives
un
us
poder también, porque ahora
some
podemos
power
utilizar
because now we can use this creativity of
encontrar cosas
machines
nuevas
in
sobre
order to
nosotros
find new things
mismos,
about
especialmente.
ourselves.
Miren, les recuerdo, yo hago
I have
ciencia
to
social,
remind you, I do social
uno puede
science.
usar
So how can
esas
I
máquinas para
use
enseñar
this
más
machine
algo.
intelligence to teach
Por ejemplo,
something?
si ustedes
For
vean un
example,
rostro de una
if
persona
you see a
con una
face of a
probabilidad
person
de
with a probability of
55 a 60% de ustedes
55% to
pueden, los humanos en
65%,
general,
humans in
pueden
general
predecir
can
la orientación
project
sexual.
the sexual
Si esa
orientation
persona es
of that
homosexual o
person if this
heterosexual.
person is
Ustedes pueden decir,
heterosexual or homosexual.
no es
So
mucho porque 50 es la base,
55% is
¿no?
not that
O eso
much
es
because
como
50 is the
heterosexual, entonces
basis.
50-50 es la
So
base.
50-50
Pero
would be
somos
the
mejor
base,
que
but
alguien
we
en
are
realidad, si
better
estamos en
than
55
randomizing, so we are
60. Si
55-65.
preguntas a la gente cómo lo
So
hacen,
how,
dicen,
if you ask
sí,
people how they do
no
it,
sé,
they
es
say
como,
like, I don't know,
no,
I
eso
don't
no se
know,
mide.
I don't
No,
think this
claro,
guy
no se
is
mide.
straight. I don't know why.
Y no podemos abrirle el
And
cerebro a las personas y
we
vean lo que
cannot
hacen.
open the brain of people and see what
Ahora,
they
claro,
do. No.
podemos entrenar máquinas y con el
We
mismo
can
banco de
train
datos de
machines, and with
Facebook
the
que ya les
same
envié de las
database
10
from
millones,
Facebook,
entrenaron entonces
with after
algoritmos
10 million people, we can
claro,
train algorithms,
el
and
foto que
they
percibe
can
por
see out
ejemplo
of the
predecía
profile
la
picture, they can
orientación
predict
sexual
the
y muchas
sexual
veces también
orientation of
aparece en
people.
Facebook.
And sometimes we
¿Verdad?
can
Si
see
en
there's
Facebook
those
hay
pictures on Facebook. In
73
Facebook, we
diferentes
have
orientaciones
73
sexuales.
different
Realmente
sexual
es una risa.
orientations. Just a fun fact.
A mí me sorprendió también,
It
muy
was
educativo, no
shocking for
sabía
me.
que
It's pretty educational.
no
You can
sabía que
go
existía.
through
Pero
that.
ahí
I
es
didn't know that.
perfectamente
But
entre homosexual y
it is
heterosexual.
right now we're talking on only gay and
Y claro,
straight.
y la
So
máquina,
the
entonces sobre
machine
estos rostros
then
le entrenaron y la máquina
sees
se puso muy
these
bueno,
faces, it
¿no?
got trained, and the
Ahora
machine was really
con
good. It
80%,
was
70-80% de precisión
80
podría predecir la
70% of
orientación sexual
accuracy to
solamente para
predict
verle
if
la cara.
someone was gay or straight
Ahora,
only
primero,
by
viviendo
seeing
en
their
un mundo
faces.
donde en muchos países
Now,
la
in a world
homosexualidad todavía es bajo pena de muerte,
where
pues es
there are
algo muy
countries
delicado.
that
De nuevo, ¿verdad? Los
homosexuality is under
científicos
death penalty, which is really bad
demostramos que
now,
bombas existen, ¿no?
scientists prove
Entonces,
that
pero
these
hay que
bombs
ver qué se
exist,
hace
but
con estos
we have to know
bombas.
what we do with
Muy,
these
muy
bombs.
delicado. Segundo es ahora, que
Now,
para mí es el
a
desafío como
second thing,
científico
which is really
social, es ver
interesting as a social
lo que hace la
scientist,
máquina,
we
lo que
can
hace
see what the
cuando
machine
hace lo
is
que hace.
doing
Porque esta
when
máquina sí las
it's
puedo
doing what
abrir,
it does, because I
¿no?
can open this
Y
machine.
resulta que ella
And
quiere
it
saber
turns out that there
partes del
are
rostro, por ejemplo,
several
este
parts of the
aquí, la
face. For example, this
mandíbula,
one
así,
here, the
estas cosas. Ahí
jaw,
siempre se
these
fija esta
things.
máquina.
This
Y ahora
machine
lo
goes
que
to
hace,
that. And now I
mire,
can see
con este se fija.
that
¿Y por qué
these
se
are the
fijan?
focal points.
Y ahí
And why are
empieza la
these the
filosofía de
focal
ese
points?
campo.
And then
Entonces
we
los
start
biólogos
with this
también. Los
theory.
biólogos dicen, mira, esta es la
Because
mandíbula
it's just like, you know what, this is the
está muy
jaw
influenciada
here,
por su
this
balance
part,
hormonal.
it is pretty
Entonces, si
influenced
el
by
balance
a
hormonal
hormonal
cambia, esto
balance.
también
Our
empieza a
hormonal
cambiar.
balance
O mucha
changes,
gente puede
so
ver,
this changes a
cuando una
little
persona
bit.
hace una terapia de
When a
hormonas
person
para
goes through a
cambiarse de
hormone therapy
sexo,
to change their
ustedes ven
sex,
que el rostro cambia un poco.
you see that the face
Ahora,
changes a
imagínense
little.
así, después de un año de
He
hormonas, el
was
rostro
like
es
that
un poco
first, and and after a year of hormones, the face changes. And it's exactly that part. And this agency discovered that, and then we get the explanation. And that now we will have to go to biological discussions. The hormones are hormones related to the sexual orientation, and then we accelerate that to go to topics where there is a lot of confusion and judgment and stereotypes. We can get to the bottom of these topics too, in order to make science advance.
Y con eso lo aprendemos, lo aprendemos.
And
Lo
we
que al
learned
final
that about
aprendemos
that.
aquí
What we learn here is that there are many types of intelligence. This artificial intelligence is teaching us things that we are not good about. It's data processing, and we're good in other stuff. And now we realize that the truth is that this thing, we always think that we are the creme of the la creme, we're the evolution because we're smart. I think that's why I am. That was Descartes. And now we realize that when we think, regarding thinking and reasoning, machines are winning over us. And they do many, many interesting things. They think better than we do. And now I don't want to talk about thinking only. I'm talking about flying, like a metaphor. Because if we think too much about thinking, it gets a little bit complicated. So let's think about flying. Our brain was the solution that Mother Nature found to the intelligence problem. And it also found birds to solve the flying problem. So, after thousands of years, we have always thought that if you want to fly, you have to do something related to feathers, because all things that fly have feathers. Or you have to be like really, really small and you have to bat your wings really, really fast. But it has to be related with that, because those are the only two things that fly. When the Wright brothers almost killed themselves in 1905, which was is not that long ago, and they jumped for 30 meters and they almost killed themselves. We still think that this is related to feathers, and we had no idea how this flying business was about. But we studied machines. We didn't study birds. We studied machines, and we discovered that it has to do with the curve in the of the wings. And who would have thought of this crazy thing? And then we started reading about aerodynamics, and 63 years later, we flew to the moon. Only 60 years after that. And we created this whole variety of flying machines. Now, the hummingbird can stop in the air, but now I needed more years to create a drone or a helicopter. I need to know about aerodynamics. How a hummingbird does it is Mother Nature has its own paths, but if you want to stop in air, the drone can do that, and Mother Nature never found a solution to fly to Mars. So intelligence is the same thing. This is the solution that Mother Nature found for the thinking problem. But there are many ways to think, and what happens right now is that we have this intelligence and we create this science with several types of intelligence, and we have to find our place there. Or we have to ask if we are more than just thinking machines, and if we are more than that, what are we? Now I will stop here because I only have 5 minutes left, but we can come back to this in the Q&A session now. At 5, I have like 2 more hours, and we can talk about these topics too. At 5 or 5:30. And let's go to the last part, the theory. We need theory because we have a lot of data. We have social sciences that are border the economic science because we are the most thorough science. So we need artificial intelligence or things that we have these artificial sciences, we can create value and we can find new ways to create knowledge. And why do we need theory still? Because everything is automated now. So theory is required because data is always past. If you have a timeline like this, what is a prediction? How is this timeline going to continue? What's your prediction? And there is nothing in the data that would allow you to say something else than the same. Statistics, science, data will force you to say that data have to continue the same way. Now, data is always past. Because the moment when I record those data has already passed. So we want the future to be the same as the past? No, of course no. We want a world without poverty, without pollution, without crimes without wars. Now show me data of wars without contamination and without poverty and without wars. It's non-existent. Data, machine learning itself will not allow you to change. It can only create predictions of the future. The future is the same as the past. Now, this works really well with astrophysicists because hopefully the world will continue the same as yesterday. Hopefully everything will be the same. But in social sciences we don't want the same as the past. So that is a problem for us, not for the physicists. So for me this is a problem because I want the future to be the same, and there is a problem that is behind all of this because the filter bubbles in the social problems only show the things that have already happened in the past. And when there are moms that had their kids dead because of a car accident, they Googled a lot of that. And I'm showing you only these things, and maybe someone loves sports cars and they Googled that in the past. And they're only showing that kind of thing, so these two will go to further extremes. The result is the echo chambers with the thinking bubbles, the polarization that we see in this political environment, because right and left cannot talk to each other. So that's why, because algorithms in Facebook and Google show the past, and they become more extremists, but when you are in this bubble, it's really to change your mind. But maybe you can change the way that you are manipulated, how politicians do it, but they also take advantage of the fears that you had in the past and they project that into the future. But we cannot do that here. We cannot create a whole new world with machine learning. It's really important for you to understand that. Machine learning will perpetuate past to infinity. So what can we do there? Well, social sciences also advance in theory. And that's what we do with theory, is that in theory I can create a world without pollution. This is like a sim city. We have these computing simulations. Have you played Sim City before? So that's how it looked when we play. Now it doesn't look like that, which makes me really angry. And these are simulations. This is a simulation for young kids where I can create this same society. So, for example, this carbon, I don't want this carbon, so I create alternative energy. And we have the sustainable development impact on labor. And so kids play with the simulations and they start studying and they see what happens because in theory, there is a society like that. Not in practice, but in theory, this happens. And these are tools that have complex systems. And this is really good because we can create these multi-level studies and really great things happen, and we create this artificial data, and we can also use machine learning and we use it in theory. So what happens here is that I have a protest in front of the hall. I wouldn't have expected it, but it happens. So I have to see what I do. And these simulations happen in real world. This is Chicago traffic. This is a chemical attack in LA that never happened, and this is the map of a part of the US with an Afghanistan attack. And we need the three of them. We need those data, and we have to study that. But it is really dangerous because, for example, artificial intelligence can make us take advantage of data. But there are some dangers because those dangers will be because we are perpetuating past to infinity. Today, this afternoon, in the most extended chat, I will talk about 6 more limitations of big data because I think there are many limitations. So I will talk about that in that chat, and we can talk a lot about that. But for now, I will leave you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Martin, for this great presentation. And now we will go with Dr. Jesús Rogel Salazar. Let's see if it works. Okay. Hi, good morning. It's my pleasure to be here in Puebla. I have really great memories of Puebla. I studied here in AOE in my degree dissertation. That is an experience I will never forget. And I also thank the organizers and Taylor Francis for making it possible for me to come here to eat chiles en nogada in September, which is really good. So the chat that I'm going to give you today follows some of the ideas that Martin has already outlined, and at some point we will have an overlap. At some point we will be talking about some areas that Martin talked about, but we will go a little bit deeper into that, especially in the use of these technologies to create new human resources. So I was thinking about what I was going to talk about, and I was going to start like really dry with data science and AI. Nevertheless, one of the things that is clear to me in my day-by-day activities as a consultant for these companies that have this huge data analysis of many kinds. One of the things that happens is that sometimes they ask you, like, I have this data here. What can I do? I need to use AI right now because Apple and Google are using that. I want to do it as well. Nevertheless, sometimes it is not possible to use this type of data in this way. In a certain way, they say that context content is king if content is data. Data is key and context is the queen. So yeah, there could be many data. Martin was saying social sciences are over physicists that we will see because we're doing the same thing. But the amount of data that we have, not all of those data are clean to be used immediately. We have to use statistics. He was talking about that. We have to clean those data. Not all data are true and accurate. We have to check many things out. And finally, talk about all of these trendy areas like data science, AI, automatic learning that I'm going to be calling machine learning to provide continuity to what we were talking about with Martin and other type of things. Okay, so I will introduce myself. I am Jesús Rogel. I am a physicist. We will talk about these things with Martin. I am a geek by conviction and I am a programmer. And I know that this is the greatest chat of the day, so I would like to do an exercise. Could you please stand, all of the people who have their cell phone in their hand, could you please stand up? And just stretch a little bit so you wake up. We are not going to dance or anything. So from the people that are sitting down, who has their cell phone or tablet in your backpack or your back pocket? Could you please stand up? All right, great. Now, I would like for the people who talk to Siri or Cortana with love to please sit down. Like, Siri, what time is it, please? Nobody sat down. Okay, now I want the people who use WhatsApp to who use Waze and get surprised sometimes. Please sit down. People who use Waze, please sit down. Okay. Now I would like the other people to sit down. All of the people that use Twitter or Facebook or any other social network. I'm not going to ask about OkCupid because that's your deal. So the people standing up, what do you use your phone for? To make calls, I guess, those calls that Martin was talking about to improve all of the payment programs. So this is kind of a joke, but we're used to using our phone and our apps. But as Martin was saying, those apps are not only apps that make our lives easier, but they are using those data to try to understand us better. And it is not only understanding us as people or individuals, but also as a human being working in the city of Puebla who moves from one place to the other. And this amount of data, people who are doing the same as I'm doing, I'm sure that they will have the same trends to buy coffee in a certain store or for the products that they are interested in, and they can use this in their benefit. So, in a certain way, I would like to propose the first definition of data science. It is not even a definition, it is actually pretty objective. The objective of data science, in that sense, in a business field, is to help organizations accelerate the impact of their data for their customers. If I understand their customers better, as Martin was saying about the call center, if I understand my customers better, then they have a better experience, and then you will recommend me with other colleagues. Some of the objectives that I have for this chat. First, to talk about what data science is, what is AI, what are those trendy terms, talk about the challenges and opportunities that these new trends, and I'm not saying new sciences, new trends, allow us, and what are the skills and requirements that we have to educate people that have to do this kind of work. So first, what's data science? Yesterday at dinner, I was talking about Martin. I was talking with Martin, and I was telling him there is this great saying that says that if a branch needs to be called science, and it is not science. So it is not that I want to hurt myself, but data science is not really science. And just think about it. But we can talk a little bit later during over coffee what I think about this science term. There are many other trendy terms, and data science has been trendy for 5 or 10 years. And nobody talked about data science before. When I studied physics, telling people that I was studying statistics, people looked at you like in this really funny way because you're in a party, you're dancing, you're trying to make friends, like OK Cupid, but without the app. And they ask like, "What are you studying?" "I'm studying physics and statistics," and they were like, "Okay, bye." But who would have thought that physics could bring me here to Puebla and eat chiles en nogada? So today we see some studies like the MIT Technical Review that some years before it said that data science is the sexiest profession in the world, and I already have that. I am a physicist and I am a data scientist, the sexiest thing in the world, so I am really happy. So what is data science? It is a group of tools. For me, it is this amount of tools that will allow us to build systems that help us make decisions in an automated way. It's the use of data and metrics. I noticed that those metrics do not have to be the metrics that Facebook is using. This whole morning we were talking about indexes in journals. That is also data. So, in order to make key decisions in business, usually we talk about data science for business, but we have been using this type of thing for many decades. It is just a new name. And what about other trendy terms? Because you go crazy, like is this big data or AI or data science, or is it physics or even computing social sciences? It's hard. So let's see. Well, actually, we are talking about computing sciences, but it is not unique. They are based on math and also based on social sciences, as he was saying, like economy, psychology, etc. So in this case, you usually talk about AI, and it's really interesting that now every company wants AI. Like we are developing AI to do this thing. Well, AI is a way broader field than only having some device. It is a field that covers, of course, computers, but also psychology, creativity, or what it is to be smart. What does that mean? It's not only a computer. There is something else in our brains that allows us to be smart. So how can we mimic that? And a part of understanding this AI is using techniques, automated learning techniques. So it's like machine learning, this set of tools that helps AI. And of course, it is a pillar thereof. So they are together, but not mixed. It's not the same thing. And also the example that Martin was giving us, the super breakout. All of this Atari game that learned by itself, that is deep learning, that is a machine learning technique for AI. So it's not the same, but they are linked. So let's talk about machine learning. Machine learning, actually, we're talking about pattern recognition. And Martin was giving us this example, this sinusoidal wave, like what will happen after. And if we do this in an automatic learning way, as Martin was saying, this wave will continue in the same frequency as the previous periods because it discovered a pattern of that frequency, of that width, and it will give us a future prediction. And that is the second section, like predicting things through those patterns. If it is just a random pattern, I will not be able to predict anything. I will not be able to predict what will happen later because I haven't found a pattern. Automated learning helps us use the power of computing because we cannot use all of the calculations in our heads, but now we have supercomputers that will allow us to discover these patterns. In the examples that Martin was giving us, he was talking about several apps, for example, the super breakout or predictions regarding someone talking with a certain tone, it could be understood or handled in the call center in a certain way. Nevertheless, there are several differences. They are not the same, the techniques are not the same. So I would like to talk about the tasks that we have in machine learning. First, we have some tasks that we call unsupervised tasks. The clicker is not working here, but we see a computer that is learning. It's at school. This is automated learning. And notice that in the first image, there is no professor. They are trying to understand the patterns that they see without any kind of guidance. You just provide the data and the machine tries to infer the results and they try to find a pattern. In this case, the example that Martin was giving us about the super breakout, like you just tell the machine that what you have to do is getting the most score, the highest score in the least time. The strategy that you use is your deal. And he found this idea to use that he founded the idea of using the tunnel. There is no supervision, that's unsupervised. On the other hand, we have some supervised tasks. We have this professor, we have this rule, and she is explaining how this rule works. So we have this metadata, we have a guidance of what we're looking for. An example in this case would be the example that Martin was giving us about detecting gay or straight faces. We have to present to the machine several types of faces and say this face belongs to someone who is gay or straight. Otherwise, it will not be able to find these kind of rules. So when we talk about machine learning, it is really important to differentiate unsupervised and supervised tasks because the type of data that we need is pretty different. For supervised tasks, we need tags. In the unsupervised ones, we don't. And well, sometimes we talk about big data, like I do big data. Okay, well, everyone does. But for me, it is a general term, especially because big is a comparison adjective. It needs to be big compared to something. For example, if I am Apple or Amazon, I can talk about big data pretty easily. But if I own just a little convenience store and I'm using these Excel sheets and I cannot do it anymore with them, that is not big data for me. Just as Martin was saying, if I cannot do it in my head, then I need some other kind of help. Nevertheless, there are some specific definitions about big data, and it's both that we have there. It's the amount of data that cannot fit in your computer's memory. So you need to find another computer with a bigger memory, and then it's not big data, or computation or computing clusters, or data that cannot fit only one machine. So they have to be distributed.
The term is super generic for a person. Big data depends on on how many machines you want to have. Let's go back to data science. Data science, to me, is a set of techniques and tools to extract information from data. It is a cross-cutting area oriented to problem solving based on the application of scientific methods to practical problems. Yesterday, I was having a conversation with Martin when trying to update and to agree on this presentation. Sometimes it's not saying science, and I need uh, machine learning. It's more talking with customers interested in using their data in a more productive way for the benefit of their customers in a way that's also feasible to them. So data science is a combination of analytics and algorithm development. Sometimes, yes, we need a new algorithm to try to understand patterns, but most of them are about answering questions, simple statistics. And Martin was saying that also. The key part is asking questions in a timely and appropriate manner to see if data will help answer the questions. Sometimes it's like me saying I have this amount of information. Sometimes it's like being the Chinese, like I know what you know, but I don't know what you don't know, etc. So it's better off explaining what we need and trying to dig in data. So let's see how this works. Please meet my friend Beto. Beto is the leader of a scientific team. He constructs very cool models everyone uses for commuting, for finding the best route, and he uses automated learning or machine learning. One consideration Beto needs to know to consider in order to develop his models. Say one of his customer asks him to find a model that will detect if there's a car or a dog. What he needs is a supervised action. He needs to tell a machine how a car looks like and what a dog looks like. So then we'll have a lot of breeds of dogs. As for cars, he'll need to provide different models. The volume of data variability is super important. If I just present Snoopy like a dog, it'll detect that Snoopy is a dog, not a French poodle, no other breed. If I present the machine just one model, the machine will understand that just that model is a car. Training samples need enough observations of the model we need to model. I mean, this is a supervised action, and we need to use comparable situations. I have this short story of a customer of mine. He was trying to do human detection under certain conditions. Problem is the pictures he would take were taken under the same lighting conditions in the same studio. So the machine was learning that there was one person when the walls were of that specific color and when the lighting was of that type. Because we were presenting positive patterns for this task, not variability, and that is so important when it comes to data science in social sciences, especially because we need to take bias into account for that piece of information. And I fully agree with Martin in that the amount of data is quite large. However, we need to consider that, as he said, that we are not analyzing physical analysis like electrons analysis, moving in an electronic field. We're talking about humans, and economists know this. When presenting new incentives, we change the behavior pattern of that human. So, the data we need in training of models need to be refreshed continuously. It's not just saying I have this data and I'm going to sleep. The result is a proven model with observations we haven't observed. Not during the training in order to have a comparison as to the model being good or not. We do that in statistics, but in day one. Using data, using raw data is a myth. We need to debug data, we need them of good quality so that they help us to answer questions. Some people say that data scientists spend 80% of their time debugging data and 20% of their time complaining about debugging the data. Very often we have scientists who come to me and ask me, well, this model looks fine. How many data do I need? I say, I cannot answer that, but the more data, the better. The richness of data allows us for doing these kind of things. We are very lucky data scientists. We're vicious with data. If you have more, give them to me. And this is the reason. Let's see a typical model of predictive forecasting in data science, in AI. Classification. Just imagine we have like M&M type of candies in the bag and that we need to classify them. So we give this problem to Beto, and first of all, we need variability in the attributes of these informations in such a way that the machine can learn, so to speak, existing patterns. So we have a number of M&Ms on the one hand, and we have a machine doing detection, and it classifies the M&Ms in the appropriate cup. So the machine is looking at the M&M and it says this is the difference, the roundness of the M&M. No, because all of them are kind of the same. Yes, there are irregularities, but it's probably the size. There are enormous M&Ms and small M&Ms. No, the difference is color. The brown ones need to be in one cup, the green ones in another cup. So this allows Beto to build a robust model. So they present this model to their customers, and then the customer says, everything looks good. But when true data is presented, there's a bunch of green M&Ms, but with 2 or 3 red M&Ms. So the model didn't work because there is not a pattern to distinguish. If I just present all green M&Ms, the machine will say the rule is that it is green, everything is green, so that's the end of the story. Obviously, I have these other M&Ms of different colors that I need to classify. And this is an example which looks very simple, but there are many researchers here in the health area. There are illnesses that only some percentage of population have. If I have a model predicting that no one will have that disease, say a very aggressive cancer, so then I don't even need oncology. It's not about that. We need to understand the pattern that was kind of hidden. So we need to be very careful with these things. So saying that the model is 85% accurate is not a reality. So if I present this model, it's like this cartoon. After big data resolves the problems, then we go riding on unicorns. So we don't need anything else. And this takes me to talk to unicorns. The number of people talking about the unicorn of data science is a lot of people. Is the people who knows a lot of things, mathematics, programming. They have a nice handwriting. They write poetry, and they are like Superman. This is a list of knowledge required in data scientists. Programming, all of those wanting to become a unicorn. This afternoon I'll have a workshop, so you are invited to join. After that, they are required to know mathematics and statistics at a very deep level. And in this overlapping section, we have machine learning, and we need to be very savvy for in the research, in the business area, data support, and to some extent traditional research. Right in the middle is the unicorn's home. People who know everything, programming, significant problems in the subject area. But scientists are demanded to have a good communication in a polite manner, curiosity, and rigor. So people think of us as if we were Batman, like someone who knows everything about everything, but we don't live in another planet. So the icon should change from Batman to the B diagram and to fight evil. So it's like when you go to a party with a costume, and then there are other guys using the same costume, superhero costumes. So why thinking of the unicorn with this image? We want to achieve those. So that's why I like using another animal, mythical animal, the jackalope. It is a mixture of a deer and a rabbit. If you visit Wyoming, you'll see people with trophies. But it is like a fake story. It's not exactly a unicorn. It is a mythical animal. There's a rabbit virus that causes cancer in animals. So it's easier for me to find a jackalope than a unicorn. And to some extent, I'm using this allegory to propose the fact that it is not necessary to find one person who will know everything, like to recreate the Batman or the unicorn, but we can put everything together as Conrecit does. Conrecit is a consortium of data working with physicists like Martin and myself who disagree on some topics, but we're able to work together in this manner. Data science is a team sport, and I love this image. And in the last World Cup in Russia, the English team had a really good time in the swimming pool. Instead of playing football, they were playing with unicorns. So that's my idea, playing with unicorns as a team. Very few people know everything about all areas. So putting together research teams is the best option, bringing people with experts in different disciplines. Every discipline is very wide, so we can help among each other. So data scientists work in teams, not in isolation sometimes. We like riding unicorns. We're trying to close the gap between apps and data. What do we want this? Because there are two lines of thought. One line of thought is the formulation of very complicated theories that turn in something like this. I think that things should be easier. Sometimes the question is, what about the application of these algorithms like this image? There's this little girl with Santa Claus, and he says, sorry, kid, our machine learning CRM with predictive analytics says you're getting cold this year because you misbehaved. And she says, oh no, that was a bad judgment. And then Santa says, I'm sorry, it was the algorithm. And people have heard ask Watson, well, you have AI. It's like just pressing a button and the machine will do everything. It's magic. Or sometimes we depend on apps like Waze, or it's practical action. Sometimes we don't like going to theory, so there I agree with Martin. We need theory for developments, not only on mathematical algorithms, but also on explanations and interpretation that we apply to them. Otherwise, we'll end up with this kind of situations. Before, in the recent days, I was reading latest news on AI, and they just talked about this kind of things. Patients that will be diagnosed by machines in next years, the super computer intelligence that will be very disruptive. People saying machines will replace us, they'll steal our jobs, or we have the case of this girl, Erica, asking what does a human being a human being means. But not everything is ex machine. Have you seen this movie? They're androids. You cannot distinguish the difference. We're not there yet. We're more over here with machines helping us cook the patties, but there's a human person just putting the patty where it has to be, and that's just assisting humans. Of course, if machines go crazy, well, she need to prepare the patties. But my point is that we have applications doing the same. For sure, you've heard about the Google Go challenge, having Go playing against a human, and the machine won't the human. But let's ask machines if they know how to turn bodies around. Probably not. We're not there yet. We're typically talking about a Terminator kind of situation. My proposal is that we are like the witch apprentice, where Mickey Mouse tries to automate actions, and then they put a spell on the brooms in order to in order for the brooms to assist Mickey Mouse to do the cleaning, but the brooms keep on doing the same work that Mickey Mouse has asked them forever and ever. So the castle gets flooded, and then there's the witch there to assist. So the problem to me is not a Terminator problem, it's using automation on a blinded manner. Why? It's like the Lord of Rings. It's not having a ring to rule everyone. It's not a one size fits all. It's more like a tailor, having tailored models for each goal that we may have. And this is sometimes what we need. And for that, we need very well trained, well educated personnel to complete the tasks. And we heard from Dr. Berger this morning, he was saying that one of the most important tasks of a higher education institution is educating very highly skilled graduates who will help us address the challenges we have as society in the present and in the future. So that's a challenge for higher institutions, for higher education institutions. And I was wondering what kind of institutions are available and what we need in the different syllabus for that, and what are the differences between syllabus. And as a good data scientist, I started digging a little bit. This is not a comprehensive study. I just visited a website to see the different academic degrees available in the US. This information comes from a website called KD Nuggets that allocates resources to data sciences to do research about algorithms and data science. So what we have here is that in the US there are 113 programs. This is the KD Nuggets database. I'm not saying there are only 113 programs. For sure there may be more. There are 85 master's degree, 12 bachelor's degrees, 3 PhDs, and we have a big number of diplomas and diploma courses and other certifications. But I want to give you the context. This is data is king, but the context is queen. So these are the regions where the syllabus are. If we take the number of syllables, then we have like the two extremes. We have a lot of programs in California and New York, for example. I'm representing the United Kingdom, so I wanted to know information and present information of the United Kingdom, and there's less content, less programs, 21 overall, 16 master's degree, 1 PhD, different degrees, diploma courses and certifications, but most of the programs are in the south of London, in the south of the UK, close to London. I'll talk about Mexico. We have different academic degree in Latin America. There are in Argentina, Brazil, Chile, Cuba, and Venezuela. I'm not saying they're the only data science academic programs in Latin America. They're the programs listed in Key Nuggets. Unfortunately, they don't have information for Mexico, so I did more research on the internet. In Mexico, we have 3 master's degrees in ITEM, in Infotech, and UVM, which is an online program. We have a PhD program in Infotech and 1 diploma course in UNAM from the Ministry of Open Education and Continuous Education and the Faculty of Science. We have 1 school, 5-day school, in the Cuernavaca location of the Mathematical Institution. That will happen in October from 15th to 19th. But you know, this is food for thought. If we're talking about the education of the people to address the challenges Martin was talking about, and if we need the strong foundation to become the jackalopes, we need to find other options. Experience. I was not educated as a data scientist, but I have experience on this. There are internships apprenticeships, and Marion was asking me if the company I work for takes apprenticeships, and yes, they do. There are online courses, and there's continuous education in institutions like the General Assembly of Galvanized, and I deliver courses for General Assembly. So, what areas do we need to address? The areas that KD Nuggets is covering are listed here. They have two sections: business analytics and data science. But the business analytics courses have 47% of content of business, 27% contents on mathematics and statistics, 23 computer science, and 2% economics. But programs that call themselves data science have a large percentage of computer science, 47%, mathematics and statistics, 42%, and they have some coverage on business, 9%. I was talking with Martin as to how to distinguish between computer science and data science. A data science program versus a statistics program has almost two times the contents of data science because they use other areas of knowledge. I mean the computer area compared to compared to the mathematics area. In a statistics program, there aren't contents of business or economics. So I'm about to finish, and my proposal is that in the same way that new academic careers have appeared, like in 1806, we saw the appearance of civil engineering, and in the 1820 nursery based on data. Well, now we have to become more professionals in data science, and so this is why I think that higher education institutions need to really think about the new areas they need to cover. This is an area that covers a lot of lines of science. Here there's a list of recommended subjects, but I think we should become more like medicine, the medicine area, like a favorite physician. A cardiologist need the same foundation of physiology, anatomy, biochemical, biochemistry. So I'm not expecting a cardiologist to perform a brain surgery. But in data science, people say, you develop these neuronal networks, now come and do something different. Why? I mean, that's not my area. We need to be more professional. I want to talk about some initiatives happening in Europe. The Edison program, sponsored by the European Community, the Horizon 2020 program that aligns the needs of industry with the list of projects. It supports the revision of syllabus, it finds or it helps develop applicable profiles, and they have certification programs. The number and quality of graduates has improved. To some extent, it's about helping institutions to help themselves. So, where are we heading to? Part of the public policies in the United Kingdom in 2015, we created the Alan Turing Institute, with by the part of a governmental recommendation now having artificial intelligence to their mission. It's a collaboration between universities, companies, to apply the research to existing problems for the benefit of the economy and the world. Well, the mission of the Alan Turing Institute is to become the National Institute of Data Science and AI, and to take big steps to improve our world. The institute helps taking the United Kingdom as the research center of excellence and advancing studies of AI, training future leaders. And these kind of things seem to be impossible, but let's take a look at what country has achieved in this same kind of things, like putting together this kind of conferences. There are different areas in the Alan Turing Institute, like public politics, data science, health, AI as such, and database engineering. So to conclude, the world now has been more quantified. Institutions and successful initiatives are more and more based on data use, but having data is not everything. It's more like having people trained who know how to use this data for improving the world. So thank you very much. Please behave yourselves. You'll never know if Santa Claus is going to use something like this. This year we have prefab another gift. I mean, this year we pre-made your gift based on data-driven insights from your wish history. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much for this presentation. And as I have it in this seminar, we will now go to the Q&A session, the comments that you are giving us digitally. And I would like to start with this one, the one that is first on the list. And could you please answer that? How to delete all of my information from Facebook in a safe and final way? I don't know. Mr. Zuckerberg can also answer that because nobody has asked that in public. It's called the shadow profiles. I mean, they have that name, those profiles that are created with people that are actually not on Facebook. And of course, you can ask 1,000 times, but if I want to say who is the data owner, you are the owner. So I can delete that and they will tell you yes, yes, give me 3 months because it's complex systems and I have to delete all of this data. But this data are the data that you created in your Facebook account. Those are the pictures that you posted, your posts, and they can be deleted. It takes 3 months and then you can delete it. But the data that they collect about you outside Facebook, even when you're logged out or when you don't even have a Facebook account, they don't talk about that and they're not asking and there is nothing about that. And that's what it is about. I think that well, I tell them I was feeling a little bit embarrassed when they spent 2 days, like why they didn't go deeper into these questions. We started the discussion, and last week, Google and Facebook, Twitter and Facebook were invited. Google was not coming because of the power they have. They just didn't come to the Congress. In Europe, they have this legislation as well, this data protection legislation, and you receive these emails, some of the European guys. There are some regulations now. I did not find anyone, all across Europe, even in the European Commission, people that I'm talking about, I did not find anyone who could tell me that the legislation is good. Even the European people said that they don't believe it's a good regulation, but there is one at least. They have to remember that it's like when we introduced cars and there were still horses on the street. We are in that discussion. There was not a driver's license. We didn't even know if we had to drive on the right or the left. There was no signaling on the street. There were no government institutions to regulate that. Now there is this traffic law, which is really, really thick, and now we didn't have that before, and we're creating that now, and we have to create that. And in Latin America, maybe there is no discussion as such. And now the discussion is not complete but in Europe, but here we don't even have that discussion. So I want to thank the organizers because I think that, especially in the science world and the information world, it's really important to have this discussion because this is ruling the world now. Just to add a couple of things, obviously, Martin and I do not work for Facebook nor Twitter, but I'm sure that there must be some kind of setup where you can try to ask and see the data that they have about you. But asking to delete these data is a little bit complicated. Not only because of what Martin is telling us, but also because of the fact that the product of this kind of companies is us. It's like asking a petrochemical industry to delete the engineers. No oil company will get rid of their refineries, for example. Or maybe asking if the people who don't have a Facebook account to, for example, if someone tags you, it's not your account, it's your friend's account. So it's they start absorbing data too because the permission was there. So at least you have to check your setup, your privacy setup. The next question is, why do you think social sciences are still underestimated as a research field when maybe companies think completely different, considering that data has this financial value that can be obtained because of social scientists? It's not, I mean, it was just a joke to say these comments, but what I think is that the discussion sometimes is about the how stringent are the legislations regarding data usage, but that is because the type of data that they had was just hilarious. I mean, it was really hard to obtain, and it was through surveys. If there was a bias in the survey, it only worked for a certain kind of population. But as Martin was saying, the amount of data that we have now accessible to us to run this type of analysis in a more thorough way is enough to set this path. And thus areas as economics and physics or physicists like me that are together working with humans, sciences and physics. The next question is, do you consider a methodological option for data analysis in internet could be ethnography, and what is the role of ethics when analyzing data and information found online? Well, ethics. It's really important. I think ethics is really important because that has to do with creating these institutions. Technology is not neutral and it's not from one side or the other. It is just a tool. Technology has always been a technology. If I have a hammer, if I want to civilize and I want to be different from monkeys and I want to build protection or a house or a cave, I need something similar to a hammer. But anything that is similar to a hammer to build a cave, I can use it to kill someone as well. So it's not the fault of the hammer. It is only a tool, and with each tool we form it and then it starts to form us, so it is a bi-directional path. And we have this discussion between the technological mysticism because it's not good or bad, but it is actually the society. If 10 years ago we had one of these chats, most people in Silicon Valley heard that internet would take us to democracy. Internet takes us to the democracy. Internet promotes competition. Internet, because of its nature, takes us to more competition. Small ones can also compete, and democracy and opinions can be heard. And that would be fantastic. And now it's like, no, these tools were used to destroy democracy. Now we have these tyrants that have power because of these technologies. So technology takes you to dictatorship? No, it's not that. Big companies are not as monopolistic as before. So what happens with the competition? Internet doesn't do this or that. Internet has to work with society, and we have to create institutions we based on ethics, and we have to choose where we want to go. And this is a social process, and we have to create technology then to implement democracy that did not exist before. There is marketing also to promote democracy through technology. So we have to create technology, and then technology will also create or guide us. Thank you. There was one question that I think can be skipped because you have already answered that. They were asking about some tips to protect our information. Now, the following question is, social data, do they tend to go to chaos or stability? I mean, there are several social networks, and it could be 50-50, it could go in either way. What apps can be created with big data for the education field? Several things. I have some colleagues that help kids to understand how to read better and analyzing texts to have a better understanding, and that is through technology, interactive technology, capturing the data of the kid, what are the reactions, and all this type of data. It's not only about understanding or not understanding, but also all of the interactions that they have with the game, to call it a way. In other areas, I'm sure that many of you have used Crucera, which is education too, and it is a database. For example, all of the courses that you have taken, these kind of things you're interested in, and they are helping that promotion. And also for adults, I think it's really important to understand. I mean, I didn't learn programming in college. It was not a topic when I left college. I just did not learn about brain networks in college because it was not actually a topic. We also learn in Coursera or YouTube, and that's how things work. And we have to understand that. And I think that it's using that technology for learning, but also it's learning is something that we do. We took it from Aristotle to digital channels, and many things can happen there. All my courses are online, and we have to learn other things. And AI is really clear for me today that even many of the pre-grade students that took courses in programming sciences or that did a web scraping or machine learning analysis and other things, they know more than professors. They know more than professors. This takes you to a really interesting dynamic because we always think, no, it's a different world. We all have to learn. And we have these channels too where we can learn. And we have to learn these new things in order to be able to interact with new generations and guide them because they also need some guidance. They have these technologies, these tools that are really strong, and many times this can be harmful. Just to talk about this, we were talking about this yesterday, Martin, about the students that we had that were using a lot of machine learning, and we both said that sometimes we have to pull them back a little bit and say, like, this is not only about using deep learning like that. Maybe we can use an easy statistics tool like a linear regression will take you to understand these phenomena in a much better way than if you start with a brain network where you have many issues. So we have to help them in that sense. All right. We want to congratulate you and share your presentations, but the question is the use of big data and AI. Can that damage society, as in the case of Bancomer, that will be replacing over 1,000 people? This bank a few days ago in their call center service had something equivalent to Siri placed. So it will be a machine who answers your problems. regarding your bank account. So they're asking if this can damage society. Well, my field that I studied is the innovation theory, and Schumpeter, the leader economist in this topic, he's calling that creative destruction, and that is what is going on with each technological innovation. It is destroying things, and it creates a new definition of things. So I have to go back a little bit, and this will take me a couple of minutes, but I think it's really important to understand this. The truth is that I'm not really afraid of that. It's true that this technology will remove many employments in 1 or 2 decades. It's a fact. And it's not only going to destroy jobs, blue collar jobs, also lawyers, doctors, the most educated ones will also be replaced by this type of technology. That is also a fact. But it's not the first time that this happens to us. We have two civilizations, the Incas here in America, and also an Axmer in Cambodia. Those were agricultural civilizations, and their production, their biggest production was rice. So most people there in these two societies had to grow rice. They cleaned the fields and they got water there. They made sure the river was flowing. So 50% of the population was involved in this rice business or watering business because that was their production. That's what they produce. Those were agricultural civilizations. And then there was this technical innovation that was called the water channels. And half of the civilization was left jobless. Half of the civilization was jobless because these water channels automated the process of taking water to the rice fields. So what happened there? Well, half of the population was pretty bored, so they started to do things that were really crazy, like creating these huge buildings. They invented architecture. They created Machu Picchu or Angkor Wat in Cambodia, this the biggest temple in the world, and they invented. They were so bored that they started to invent the greeting language or literature, basically. Some others were so bored that they started to organize as armies and they started attacking other villages. Now, when you are carrying water buckets all day long, it's really hard to explain your father what is the value of literature or architecture or astronomy. Like looking at the stars, it's really hard to imagine what's the value of astronomy or architecture or literature if you are carrying water. And that's how we are doing right now. If I look at my tasks every day, I'm carrying water buckets. I think like I get up in the morning and I breakfast and I take breakfast and I drive my car, and even when I open my computer, this was not quality time. It's not like I feel the love of my family. There are times when I feel the love of my family and I change the life of a student. There are some moments when I feel human, but how many minutes are they a day? Most of them just reply emails. But with that AI, sometimes we cannot answer emails. So they need me for driving a car doesn't make me feel human. Doing something representative that is automated is not what you define as human. So what's coming later? We cannot verify that yet because we're busy carrying intellectual water buckets. But usually the innovation theory, this is not the first time that this has happened, and we have always created something that at the beginning you don't know what the value is, but it takes you further. Literature, architecture, astronomy have a high value, but we can only innovate because we are released from repetitive processes that were automated. And that's what we're doing right now. So there will be many changes. Creative destruction That is natural selection, is brutal.
Las revoluciones caminan sobre cadáveres, pero así evoluciona la
And
sociedad.
that's
Y
how
siempre ha
society
evolucionado así.
evolves.
Y yo estoy convencido, y la verdad es que para mí,
And
yo
for
estoy con
me,
muchas ganas de llegar
I
hacia allá.
really want to
Estoy con
get
muchas
there
ganas de llegar hacia allá porque hay tantos
because
talentos,
there are
porque me quiero
many
sentir
things.
más
I want to feel
humano.
more human
Y hacer algo
and do something that
repetitivo, o manejar un auto, o
is
hacer
repetitive of
algo
driving a car or doing
industrial,
something
eso no me
industrial
hace sentir
that
humano.
doesn't
Entonces, para
make
mí,
me
la
feel
verdad es que sí,
human.
hay que ser muy
And the truth
atento,
is that
hay
we
que
have
ser
to be really
preparado,
aware,
hay
we
que ser
have to be
flexible,
prepared and flexible
porque es fuerte,
because it's
pero
really strong,
normalmente el
but
futuro es mejor.
usually the future is better.
Muy bien. ¿Cuáles
Okay,
serían las
what
implicaciones
could be
de
the
hacer
implications
uso del
of
acceso federado a
using
diversos servicios
access
usando
to
la cuenta de
several
Facebook?
services through a Facebook
Ejemplo, cuando
account?
un
For
servicio
example,
web
when a
solicita
web
la
service
cuenta de
asks
Facebook
for the
para
Facebook
entrar
account to
automáticamente a su
enter
portal.
automatically to the
Sí,
portal.
es interesante.
It's
De
really
alguna manera te
interesting.
lo presenta como, es mucho más fácil. Ya no tienes que
It's
crear
easier.
otra cuenta,
You don't have to
simplemente
create a new
entras
account. You
con la cuenta
just
que ya
log
tienes.
in with your
Sin
Facebook
embargo,
account.
básicamente lo que
Nevertheless,
estás haciendo es
what you're
dándoles
doing is
permiso
that you are
de
allowing
que
them
vean todo tu historial.
to see your
A lo
whole
mejor no
history.
son
Maybe
tan abiertos como
they are
Cambridge
not
Analytica,
as
pero les estás
open,
dando chance de
but
ver qué
you
tipo
are
de, por
giving them a
ejemplo, cosas
chance to
consumes, ¿no?
see, for example, with
Ya saben
Twitter.
tu handle, aunque no
They
les
know
des
your handle even if
acceso,
you don't give them
pueden ver
access. They can see
qué tweets ya
what
gustaste,
tweets you
cuáles
liked
respondiste,
and
cuáles
which ones you
retuiteaste,
replied, which
y
ones
eso
you
de
retweeted,
alguna manera estás
and
brindándoles mucha más
you are
información
giving them way more
a la que
information
tal vez querrías al momento de
than you would like
iniciar
when you
la nueva cuenta, ¿no?
start this new account.
Y claro, como bien Martín lo
And
decía
of
hace un
course, as
momento,
Martin was saying
también
before,
hacerse la vida un poco más fácil.
we try to make our lives easier. So you can create a new account, but then you have to create an account for each one of the services, and you go crazy because you don't remember the passwords, it's not the same, and then it is hacked, whatever. So we have to be careful in that sense.
Sombrero como mercadotecnia.
I have to wear my marketing hat, and I would like you to do it because I would learn more about you.
Muy bien.
All right.
En particular para el doctor Martin,
For Dr.
¿cómo ha
Martin,
afectado o
how
afectará el escándalo de Cambridge
is
Analytica
the Cambridge
para la
Analytica
recolección
scandal
de datos y para
affect
la
the data
data
collection
science?
and data science?
Sí, es como, para decirlo claro, yo creo que
Well,
los
just to be clear, I
analíticos
think
tenemos que
that
agradecerlo,
we have
porque
to
la verdad
thank
es que
that
decir, bueno,
because they gave us this discussion that is way
Facebook hace la
deeper.
misma cosa que
Because
Cambridge
Facebook does the same
¿no?
thing as
Tenía un
Cambridge
equipo
Analytica.
que
It
se
had
fue
a team
a las
that
candidatos
went
presidenciales de
with the
elección
presidential
y les
candidates
pagaron
during the
70
election,
millones de
and they
dólares
paid
para
$70
que
million
Facebook haga
for
exactamente la
Facebook to
misma
do
cosa, y
exactly the
Facebook
same
tiene todos
thing.
los
And
datos
Facebook
que
has
lo
all
muestra,
data,
entonces
and
no
they show
diferentes comerciales con
several
mensajes políticos
ads
y
with
por eso
political
los pagan,
messages,
¿no? Por eso
and
la
it is
campaña
paid
política
for,
paga
and
esto.
these
Lo que
political
creo
campaigns
que
pay
al final,
Facebook.
digamos,
What
porque
I
hemos visto toda
believe,
esta discusión y lo que pasa ahora en el
we
Congreso,
can see all of the details of what
yo
is
creo
going
que
on here. I think that
mucho más al fondo en la discusión
if we go deeper into that discussion
en cómo funciona la
about how
economía de esto de
economy
las mídias
works
sociales.
in these social media,
Es interesante porque
it is
hay los dos
interesting
elefantes en la
because
sala, es
there are
Facebook y Google.
two elephants in the room, and
Y
that's
voy a
Facebook
hablar
and
ahora
Google. And I will
específicamente de estos dos
talk
compañías que son
about
dos
these
de
two
las
companies
más
because that is
grandes.
two of the five
Y
biggest
Facebook y
ones.
Google, la verdad es
Facebook
que
and
para
Google.
ellos no-
The truth
no
is that
casi,
for
es que es
them,
interesante porque
it's
fue
really
casi como
interesting
una
because
visión
it was almost like a
socialista
socialist
en los
vision
primeros años de 2000,
in the
en el
first
comienzo
years
de 2000,
of
¿no?
2000,
Jóvenes dijeron que
when
no,
these
la
young
verdad es
people
que
said,
la
like, you know
información
what,
debe ser
the information
gratis, ¿no?
should be
Mi producto
free.
debe ser gratis. Tú
The,
debes poder usar
you must be
todos estos
able to use
servicios
all of these
gratis.
services
Es como
for
una visión,
free.
¿no?
It's
Como
like
de
this
no
socialist
información
vision,
y
like
que fluya. Es casi una
information
visión
has to flow. It's
socialista.
like this
Para poder
socialist vision.
implementarlo,
In
decían
order
los
to
datos
implement that,
faustiano
they
con el
did this
diablo y la
Faustian
publicidad.
agreement
Y la verdad es que
with
crearon
the
la
marketing
máquina
devil, and they
capitalista
created
más
this
feroz de la
the
historia de la
most
humanidad.
ferocious
Es la
capitalist
ironía,
machine
¿no?
in humanity. That's the
Y entonces
irony.
hay que ver, y estos dos son
So
los únicos
these
dos
two are
que
the only
dependen
two
100%
that
de
depend
este trato.
100% of this deal.
Ahora, en Amazon, no tienes Amazon
Now,
Prime,
Amazon,
donde
you
tú
have
pagas,
Amazon Prime, you
en
pay
Apple
for
tienes
it.
tu
In
iTunes,
Apple,
tú
you
pagas
have
una mensualidad.
iTunes, you
Y
pay a monthly
hace un par de
payment.
años, cuando
And
todavía
a couple
teníamos
of
unos
years
teléfonos
ago,
fijos, ¿no?
where we
Pagamos
still
una
had a
mensualidad
fixed
al
line,
operador
we paid a monthly fee to the operator, and the carrier then gave us a communication channel, and we're sure that this channel is not tapped. Like if I call Jose, this channel was clean, I paid for this channel. Now, if you use Instagram, Facebook, or Google, or anything, that channel will always be tapped because of voracious commercial interest. They will change the messages. You don't get a clean message. You always have a distorted message through those channels that you use for free. You're not using it for free. You're using it in a distorted way. And I think that the issue is that people don't know that, because people still think that they live in the phone line, the fixed phone line world. And no, these channels are active. These channels decide what information you will see, and in Google as well. And the search results is what you receive. It is not like a library that you go to. It is not a clean channel where you pay for a service. It is distorted. And these two, Google and Facebook, depend 100% on that. And the question is, first we have to be aware, and is that the model that we really want, or would it be better, like maybe if I pay a monthly fee for my Facebook account, I would be happy if they stop manipulating me at any moment. And they also asked Zuckerberg, and there was a disagreement because he wouldn't like to have that payment, because he has this socialist vision of having everything for free for everyone. But the truth is that it is a ferocious capitalist machine that has its tentacles around us. For me, this capitalist machine, I totally agree on that. And we have to also consider the side effects that we have. The companies that are using data from Facebook and Google to also fulfill their own commercial interests. We have this amount of customers that is using reports coming from Google or Facebook, or how many people clicked on that, how many videos were watched, and this turns into reports that go all the way to the company leads to make decisions. For me, the fact that they are turning this into this capitalist machine is almost like the risk that we had in 2008 when the financial sector came down. If Facebook stopped existing, it's not only the fact that you cannot communicate with your aunt to tell her that there is a new baby girl. It's the amount of decisions that other companies will be making according to what you are doing on Facebook. So it would be a really big crisis. Okay, so in addition to congratulate you, they are asking you where can they contact you? Social networks. In Twitter, my handle is Tunnel, or if you look for Jesús Rogel, I guess that I'm the only one. Yeah, also my digital fingerprint is there, and I have nothing to hide. So Twitter and Facebook. So we ran out of time. Thank you very much for your attendance. Doctors, congratulations for this conference. And it is my pleasure to give you this acknowledgement from the Entre Pares seminar as a proof of our thankfulness, and this medal. It's related to this.